Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. In this week's video, we are going to look at places that you can sell your sample packs online today and get the most money back for your work on the sample packs, because at the end of the day, it is a large amount of work to create a sample pack and put it together. So you want more money in your pocket than giving up to a company. And I don't usually do this, but if I've missed any off the list and you've been having really good success with another page or another company or whatnot, please leave a comment so other people can see the ones that I've missed, and then hopefully that might give them a bit more informed decision, so then they can go on and sell their sample packs to get the most amount of money to them. So the first one we're gonna look at is Splice. It's the big one. If you make sample-based music, it's the one that everyone knows about. Well, everyone who makes sample-based music knows about it. It is probably the largest platform at the moment. They definitely came out really strong and purchased a ton of labels to make that site very, very robust. But obviously there are pros and cons with that, so let's get into it. So the first pro is obviously what I've just said. It is a known platform. There are a lot of people not only putting music out on there or samples out on there, but there are tons and tons and tons of people who are subscribers to the platform. And with the model that they have where you build up credits, people are a little less inclined to stop their subscription because they're going to lose all those credits. So I know a lot of people that are just still continually paying because they have all these credits built up. So on that front, it is a good thing that it is a known platform. Large amount of people are on there, so there is more chance of them finding your sample or sample pack to download and put into their collection. The next one is the way that I've worked with labels is I make the sample pack, and once I've gone through everything and they've got the thumbs up, I'll do the contract. And the really good thing is I'll get an advance. So the good thing is with that is you already get that money up front. So if you are looking down the road where you're like, I need the money now rather than get a trickle in of money, it is really good to get that advance. Obviously, the way that that works is if you get paid, say you get an advance of $5,000, the money earned from your sample pack will pay off that advance, and then once it's down to zero, then you start getting in the money. So if you didn't really understand how advances work, that's a pretty nuts and bolts way of putting it. And for some people that can be really good. For others, they don't want to have to worry about paying the advance out. They just want to start getting their own money for their own sample pack. So now to the cons. The biggest thing with Splice is you have to work with a label. The big thing with that is you can't just submit onto a website, it comes on Splice, and then people can start purchasing the pack. You have to work with the label or work within the constraints of Splice to get your sample pack approved and on there. As you can see on the screen at the moment, they do have an email where you can submit your own sample packs and sounds and whatnot to Splice, but honestly, I do not know if anyone is actually looking at these emails or looking at this form that's been submitted. So whilst you can kind of put your sample pack in to maybe get approved, I don't know the percentage of people are actually getting approved that way. I've always just worked through different labels, and it's just a lot easier because you have a person that you're talking to and you have like a relationship that you built up over time. So one of the other cons is there is less chance that you're going to have your pack on a chart unless you are a larger artist or a well-known artist or a well-known sample pack creator. When you're starting out, it's usually a little bit harder. I'm not going to say it's impossible, because you might have a really good push and then it starts to go up the charts. But if you're just putting the pack out and you're not really sure of how it's going to perform or anything like that, it can be a little bit harder to get it charting, to then get that snowball effect where you start getting more and more residuals coming in to pay off obviously the advance, and then to start getting more money in your pocket. And one of the last cons is once you do pay off that advance, if you've got the advance, is the splits I mean, in my case, the splits are not very good. I've heard 50-50, 60-40 to the artist, 40% to Splice. So definitely have a look at that, because it is a lot of work to make that sample pack. When it gets down the road, you don't want to be getting cents on the dollar. You actually want to get more of that money back in your pocket to get paid for the effort and the work that you put in to make that sample pack. Another con for Splice is, because the site is so big, it's maybe a little bit harder for people to find your samples on there unless you are kind of driving the traffic from your own socials and stuff like that. So just keep that in mind. Whilst it is a big pool of sounds, you might be a small fish in that pool, and it's a little bit harder to find your sounds. And lastly, there are no upfront fees to put your stuff on Splice. So if you work with a label, how it's worked for me is I haven't had to pay any fees or anything like that to get my stuff on Splice. It's always been a split and an advance. So there's no paying for a website or anything like that, or a monthly fee or anything like that. It's just Splice handles all that, but then obviously they take more of that money out because the splits are not very good and stuff like that. So the next one I want to talk about is Wavetick, and this is a relatively new platform. The owner of this platform used to own a sample company called Sample Magic, which was sold on to Splice. After they finished their contract and everything like that with Splice, they decided to make Wavetick. And yeah, it's a new platform that you can just get your sounds on straight away. So the pros with Wavetick: anyone can submit their music or submit their sounds. So if you have a sample pack ready to go, you can open up the page for Wavetick, come across, and then come into your account, and then you can start to load up your own sample pack and get selling straight away. Another pro is you can set your price. They give you a window, a suggested window for your pack to sell it at. So not only are you getting fair compensation back for your work, but if you are purchasing your samples on Wavetick, you know you're not getting fleeced because someone's charging an exorbitant amount of money. Obviously there is a window there, so if you've spent a long time creating this sample pack you think is really original and it's worth the money because of the amount of time you've put into it, you can obviously go to the higher end of that window. But if you are trying to sell more units at a lower price, you can kind of go to the lower end, and then hopefully that will generate more money because you're selling more units and getting the money that way. Another pro for Wavetick is that you can sell your songs on here. Not only are you able to sell your sample packs, you can also sell your songs, and there's different tiers and everything like that. So I'll leave the website down below, you can go through all that. But it's just like another little added bonus in with the availability of being able to sell your sample packs. Another pro of Wavetick is because it is a known site, but it is in its infancy with how new it is, there is more of a chance that people could stumble across your samples within the site. So here we have just their trending sounds and stuff like that. So if we come along and we'll look at Laid Back House, we looked at this pack, we're like, I kind of like the sounds, but what else have they got? They obviously have more from Wavetick, but then they also have these suggested ones. So there is a chance that people will be able to find your packs because it's not flooded at the moment like something like Splice is. There's more of a chance for people to find your sample packs by mistake by just stumbling across it, which I think is a really good feature. Yeah, you can stumble across samples in Splice, but if you're competing against 5,000 other packs as opposed to 50 packs, as opposed to 500 packs, you have a bit more of a chance there, so people can get your sample packs and then obviously you'll get paid. So one of the cons of Wavetick is it is new. It is a new platform, and obviously it's not as established as something like Splice, but again, that can kind of be a pro and a con, but just keep that in mind that it is pretty new, so they're still building and getting the new sounds and getting the customer base on there. But seeing the numbers and seeing how they're growing, it's definitely something to consider when you're selling your sample packs. And pricing It doesn't cost you anything to put up your packs onto Wavetick. The splits are a lot better than Splice. The splits are 12.5% goes to Wavetick, and then the rest goes to you with a 1.5 to 3% PayPal payment to PayPal for that transaction. So all up, it could be around 15%, around that mark, which is a lot better than the 50-50 or 60-40 that you would see from something like Splice. So the next one we're going to talk about is Bandcamp. Now we all know Bandcamp from being able to sell your music on there, and Bandcamp Fridays and everything like that, but there is a way that you can sell sample packs on there as well. And they even say here on the website that it's not necessarily set up to sell sample packs, but you can do it. And there's a way you can do it where people can't just listen to all the samples, and then maybe if they're feeling a little bit cheeky, just record the sounds off the website. Obviously, we don't encourage that, but with the Bandcamp Pro streaming option, you can have it so you can just have one demo track and then the whole pack underneath, but people can't play the samples from the pack. So one of the pros of Bandcamp is obviously you don't need to wait for approval. Much like Wavetick, you don't have to wait for approval to get your music on there. You can just, or your samples on there, you can just load the sample pack up there, make some links, push it out on your socials, and then hopefully sell some packs on there. Another pro is you can link to other bits of music that you have on there. So say you have an album or an EP or a single or something like that, you can all have them all on the same page. So if someone likes your music, they might like your sample pack, and then you're kind of driving the traffic all around there. Another one of the pros is the splits. It is 15% to Bandcamp and then the rest is to you. So that's really good when it comes to selling sample packs, that there is such a small amount going to the actual provider of the service, which would be Bandcamp in this case, and then the rest of the money is going to you. So one of the cons is that whilst it's not necessarily set up to sell sample packs, you can do it, but even Bandcamp say that they're not set up to sell sample packs, so that can be a little bit of a deterrent. And if you want all the features, that you'll have to pay that monthly fee to get the Bandcamp Pro streaming, so then people can't just steal your samples off the website. And that brings us to pricing. So to have a playable demo and then the rest of the pack kind of hidden away, you have to pay a $10 a month fee to keep that, to get that pro account. So keep that in mind if you're thinking, I don't really want to be paying out $10 every month. If you don't really have enough music and all that sort of good stuff, you might like it if you have a label and you can kind of bundle that in with it. But if you're just selling one-off sample packs, maybe that might not be the route to get the pro account, because you're paying $10 out, so you have to sell a couple of sample packs to pay for that every month. And like I spoke about before, the splits are 15% to Bandcamp and the rest is to you, which is really good. So you're keeping the majority of the money for your hard work to make that pack. So the next one I want to talk about is Gumroad. And Gumroad is a website that you can sell pretty much any digital creation, so samples and all that good stuff. The one good pro about it, it is a 10% flat fee. Obviously Bandcamp is 15, Wavetick is 12.5 plus the 1 to 3 with the PayPal, and then you have Splice doing their own thing. But 10% is really good, obviously more money to you. One of the big cons is there's no traffic. You have to drive all your traffic to the page to then sell the samples. It's pretty much its own island where you get it's kind of like a little website, little page. You can upload your sample packs, and then from there you can post links, so then drive the traffic to there. There's not really a chance where people can sort of stumble across. With Bandcamp, people can stumble across your samples, and definitely with Wavetick being a sample platform, people can stumble across your samples and then it might get some extra sales that way. Gumroad is definitely its own thing, and you'll have to drive all the traffic to that site. And pricing, like I spoke about, it is just a 10% flat fee across the board, which is really good. Obviously, you got to kind of keep it in mind that if you're not going to be able to drive that traffic to that page, maybe it's not the best. Maybe you should sacrifice a little bit of the percentage to get some more traffic, to maybe have people stumble across your samples, but it's just something to keep in mind when you're looking at all these platforms, which one is best for you. And lastly, one of the other ways you can sell your sample packs is on your own website. So you can sell it on like a Wix that allows for selling within the website, or another place called Sellify, which is kind of its own little website, much like Gumroad, but it's slightly different in the way that they do the percentage and how much the fees are and everything like that. You can see that to get one that accepts payments through Wix, it's going to be $27 a month. Obviously, that's something to consider when you're sort of putting together how you want to sell the sample packs, the fees that you're going to have to pay out. And then if we look at Sellify, to get the starter, it's $19 a month. So again, some more fees that you have to put out before you actually start getting money in, and it's something that you have to consider. One of the other cons, obviously, again, much like Gumroad, is you will have to drive that traffic to that website. So if you have a really strong presence on something like Instagram or something like that, you can post links to drive people to the website or to the Sellify page to try and sell those products. But again, that's definitely something you have to do on your own, and you won't have people, well, you'll have less people kind of stumbling across the page to buy the samples. And lastly, obviously the pricing that we spoke about with the website and Sellify is there's going to be those fees every month. I'm sure there are other websites that might be a little bit cheaper and whatnot, but for this, I just found two of these examples to kind of give you an idea and give you an idea of the ongoing payments that you'll have to make when selling your sample packs on these sort of sites. And lastly, before I wrap up this whole video, I found this really good page from Splice, and full disclosure, I still use the guidelines that Splice gave me for creating sample packs because they're really good when talking about volume of the samples, how they want them to loop, the names, the file structure, and everything like that. And I found that this website from Splice gives you a good little demo of some of the aspects from that guide. So as you can see, go through, they're just talking about how you should sort of put together your sample pack, but more importantly, these technical aspects. So it's talking about folder structure, the loops, and how you should have the loops, and then make sure that obviously that the loops do loop and there's no clicks, pops, and everything like that. So I'll leave a link to this down below. And it's really good to kind of go through this if you're definitely new to making sample packs and you want to get into it. This is a good overview of how to make a sample pack, the file structure and everything like that. So hopefully this will kind of point you in the right direction when putting that together. So that's about it for today. Hopefully this has given you some insight into a number of places that you can sell your sample packs online. And hopefully this has inspired you to create something, or maybe create a sample pack. Until next time, see you later.